Parker Schnabel was convinced the glacier held nothing but ancient dead ice, until the moment it started bleeding gold. One single scoop ripped through the surface, and a stream of bright flakes spilled out like the mountain had just exposed a buried secret. And instantly the sensors screamed. The ground shuddered beneath his boots, and every reading repeated the same impossible message. Something enormous was trapped inside that frozen wall. Not a simple vein or streak, but a vault sealed in ice. And when Parker realized the glacier was hiding gold so pure it glowed without sunlight, the race began. To dig now, or watch a once-in-a-century pocket vanish back into the frozen depths. Before we jump in, hit like and subscribe, because what Parker uncovers today should have been impossible. Yet it's happening right underneath him. The morning begins like any other. The air sharp enough to freeze breath in mid-sentence, and the ground locked in a sheet of lifeless frost. And Parker stands over the first drill site, expecting frozen gravel and dead permafrost. Maybe a dusting of color at best, but the moment the core sample rises, the entire camp shifts, because instead of dull gray sediment, the core sparkles with bright micro-gold trapped in frozen particles. Gold that shouldn't be here, not at this depth, not in this quantity, and definitely not inside solid ice. Then the drill operator calls Parker again, voice tight, pointing to something stranger. A thermal spike hidden beneath 40 feet of ice. A warm pocket where warmth shouldn't exist, because ice doesn't store heat and nature doesn't cheat. Yet the data is undeniable. Something underground is generating enough warmth to keep a layer from freezing. And Parker knows there's only one thing in the Klondike capable of that. Moving water, which means moving gold. He rushes to the command trailer and digs out historical maps older than modern roads. Maps from before the glacier shifted, and as he aligns them with their current position, a chilling realization creeps across his face. 70 years ago, the glacier inched forward just enough to bury an entire gold-rich channel beneath tons of compacted ice. Forgotten by everyone, erased from memory, and now rediscovered by accident. When the GPS rendering finishes, Mitch and Dylan lean in and stare at a narrow chute diving steeply under the glacier, perfectly matching the path of the old channel. Tight and dangerous, but untouched. Parker doesn't hesitate for a second. If this chute survived intact, it could hold millions in preserved ancient pay. The crew fires up seismic equipment, sending waves into the frozen ground. But what returns isn't normal. The display flickers, stabilizes, and reveals a dark, hollow, B-shaped chamber where there should be nothing but ice. And when Dylan switches to density mode, a heavy metallic streak runs through the void. So concentrated the software flags it as an anomaly, and Parker's heart sinks because he knows exactly what it means. A gold kettle, a rare natural bowl formed by ancient floods that swirl huge amounts of gold into one spot before sealing it beneath sediment and ice. As they begin removing layers, the glacier reacts violently, deep cracks racing across the surface with a hollow echo that signals empty space beneath them. Too much space. Mitch drops a probe into one of the cracks, and the tip suddenly falls into loose gravel. Actual gravel suspended under 40 feet of ice, sitting exactly where the scans predicted. The ice is not resting on the ground. It's hanging over a chamber like a fragile ceiling ready to collapse. Parker follows the longest fracture with his glove, tracing a curve too perfect to be natural, matching the seismic void almost exactly, confirming that the roof is thin, stressed, and under pressure. He orders Mitch to shave off just a little more, carefully, and the excavator's bucket scrapes forward until the earth answers with a low, vibrating thud that doesn't belong to frozen ground, and as the ice lifts away, a smooth, concave wall of deep blue curves inward like the inside of a massive polished bowl. Mitch taps it, expecting a sharp ring, but it gives a dull, heavy sound, a sign of waterlogged sediment pushed tightly behind it. Dylan sweeps sonar over the wall, and the display redraws the chamber, revealing a single, dense mass directly under Parker. So concentrated, the system warns twice before resampling, the anomaly growing stronger with every pass. No natural gold vein behaves like this. This is a single compacted cluster with enough density to distort the entire chamber. Parker knows the stories. A gold kettle formed by catastrophic floods, preserved untouched by glacial pressure, whispered about but almost never found. The excavator finally dips into the chamber floor, and instead of crunching on gravel, it sinks like a spoon into wet clay. When Mitch lifts the bucket, the sediment sloshes like thick soup, and as meltwater trickles out, bright gold flakes swirl through the runoff like glitter in a shaken jar, pure, untarnished gold that hasn't moved in centuries. Then the chamber erupts when a sealed layer of water bursts through, shooting a muddy fountain loaded with micro-gold into the bucket, the kind of flower gold that only appears when concentrations are extreme. Tyler tests the slurry expecting high numbers, but the meter spikes so hard he checks it twice. 10 times richer than normal pay, meaning the deeper pocket could be unlike anything they've ever mined. As they scrape away more slush, Tyler spots rigid straight lines cutting through the sediment, far too organized to be natural. And after clearing more gravel, he reveals a miniature fault line compressed so tightly the surrounding gravel feels like cement, a sign that glacial pressure didn't just compact the chamber, but pushed all the gold toward a single narrow pocket like a mold. Dylan maps the fault with resistivity, and the scan reveals a massive oval structure beneath the floor, a sealed, pressure-packed vault forged by ancient floods and locked in place by centuries of ice, too consistent and too uniform to be random. Parker crouches beside the cut, staring at the concave walls. The golden slurry pooling at his boots, the violent density spikes on the scanner, and he realizes everything. The cracks, the warmth, the chamber shape, points to one truth. They've broken through the ceiling of a natural treasure vault preserved for generations. The excavator pushes deeper, the chamber tightens, the ice groans like a shell under strain, and then a thunderous crack bursts across the chamber as the roof drops inches and sheets of ancient ice crash to the floor. When the frost clears, the collapse exposes a layer of gravel so old it's washed pale but streaked with thick, visible gold veins running through it like frozen lightning, undeniable proof that catastrophic floods once slammed gold into this chamber with impossible force, stacking treasure in a place no one believed it could exist, as water drips slowly from the thin seam above. Each drop falls with a lazy, unhurried beat that feels completely wrong in a chamber on the edge of tearing apart. And Tyler lifts his head, following the drip line upward. It comes from an active melt channel slicing directly above the hottest readings on their scans, meaning heat is moving through the ice. Pressure is shifting, and the glacier is changing faster than anyone wants to admit, warming the vault, softening the ceiling, and threatening to bring the entire roof down, not just burying the gold, but burying the crew. Parker steps toward the cavity's edge, boots crunching over freshly exposed gold-striped gravel, knowing the choice is his alone. Retreat now, and the glacier will close itself. Hiding this chamber for another 100 years, or push forward and chase the richest readings any of them have ever seen, while risking the whole frozen ceiling falling on top of them. He hesitates only long enough to study the melt channel's angle, the rhythm of the drips, the trembling tension in the ice like a muscle straining. Then he gives the order. Keep digging, move fast, take everything they can before the glacier decides to finish the job. The excavator inches forward and cuts deeper into the basin where the pocket is mapped, and on the third sweep, the bucket slams to a dead stop with a violent jolt, the machine shuddering as a dull, heavy metallic thud echoes through the cavity. Nothing like bedrock. Mitch reverses and tries again. Same impact, same unnatural halt, confirming something huge and solid is buried under the slush. They clear the sediment by hand until the shape emerges, a boulder-sized mass sealed inside cloudy ice. Parker kneels, brushing frost away, until the white stone beneath appears streaked with thick quartz veins branching across it like frozen lightning. Quartz like this isn't random. It's the mineral that captures gold as hydrothermal fluids cool deep below the surface. Tyler taps it with a hammer, listening to the dense vibration, far too heavy for ordinary rock. They use a controlled ice blast to free it, steam hissing as the ice melts back to reveal the boulder's face. And at first, it's all quartz and dark fractures, until the gleam shows itself. Fat, unmistakable ribbons of gold running through the cracks, not dust, but molten-looking streaks, frozen mid-flow. A chunk like this could only have been ripped from an ancient deposit and hurled here by a flood, violent enough to toss boulders like toys. They barely have time to absorb it before Parker orders the excavator to dig beneath it, because if this much gold is trapped in one rock, the real mother lode is still below. The bucket tears out the sediment supporting the boulder, and suddenly a layer emerges that is so dark it looks nearly black, compacted so tightly it resembles asphalt. Tyler drops into the hole, scooping a handful, heavier than normal pay, the darkness caused by extreme mineral compression under massive pressure. He runs a field test on the spot, and the numbers don't spike. They blow past every expectation, higher than typical Klondike pay by a staggering margin. This is the mother layer, the true kettle structure, a bowl created by violent ancient floods, filled with dense minerals and gold, then crushed under centuries of ice until everything inside fused into a geological vault. Parker watches the excavator trace the layer's curve, descending into a perfect basin just like sonar predicted, and the deeper they go, the more the minerals shift. Iron oxide, magnetite, dense black sands that cling together, signatures of catastrophic water events, powerful enough to sweep entire hillsides and deposit gold in enormous concentrations as the currents slow. This chamber isn't luck. It's the final collection point of a natural funnel where millions of years of floods dumped their heaviest treasure. Every bucket ripped from the mother layer proves it. Coarse gold rattling against steel like gravel. Pieces so chunky they clink instead of slide. Nuggets tumbling from fresh cuts as if the glacier has waited for someone stubborn enough to carve this deep. Purity up, size up, and gold appearing in every lode at levels the crew hasn't seen in years. They follow the curve deeper, each bucket heavier, richer, louder, and Parker notices the pattern. The farther they descend the bowl, the more intense the gold becomes, confirming what the resistivity scan warned. The densest mass lies even deeper, untouched. They're not at the vault's heart yet. They're only shaving its rim. With each pass, the chamber grows more unstable, the ice roof groaning in long, strained notes, water dripping faster, cracks crawling outward as if the bowl itself is fighting to hold together. Yet the gold keeps coming in waves, almost taunting them to dig further. All indicators point toward one final zone, denser, deeper, holding a mass no miner expects to find under a glacier. And then the ground finally reacts, not exploding but sagging with a low-weighted slump, the earth releasing something it's been clutching for centuries. As the floor drops, a hollow pocket opens beneath the mother layer, and when light spills in, everyone freezes. The cavity isn't empty. It's filled with thick, shimmering pay dirt so rich it looks alive, frozen gravel clumped together in heavy webs streaked with gold that glows like embers at the chamber's core. Visible nuggets jut from the walls, trapped in icy loops of ancient sediment. And as more water trickles in, it washes away the top layer to reveal even bigger chunks, fist-sized nuggets locked just beneath the surface. Mitch tests the rim with a shovel, and the blade sinks only an inch before hitting something solid. He reaches into the slush with his fingertips and pulls out a massive nugget, smooth, palm-sized, shockingly heavy. The kind of gold that doesn't travel far, meaning they're standing in the true center of the kettle, the deepest point, the vault, where the heaviest treasure settled. Tyler crouches beside the opening, letting water rinse more sediment away, and the exposed gravel gleams like a mosaic of raw metal, based purely on visible volume. Before processing, he murmurs a number that makes everyone stiffen, 80 to 110 million if the pocket holds its full depth. And if the chamber extends beyond the scan, if the glacier compacted even more material than expected, the value could climb far higher. Nobody speaks it, but the weight of the truth hangs heavy in the air. They've just cracked open the richest natural gold pocket any of them has ever set eyes on. And before they can fully absorb it, the glacier responds with a warning that vibrates through their bones, a low grinding groan rolling across the chamber, followed by a jagged spiderwebbing crack tearing across the roof as chunks of ice rain down and the melt channel widens while the entire dome visibly shifts, frozen pillars warping under shifting pressure. Tyler glances up once, muttering minutes, not hours, before the ceiling comes down, and Parker wastes no time, calling for an all-out extraction, no pauses, no second-guessing, taking everything from the pocket while they can. The excavator lunges forward, bucket after bucket, plunging into the hollow, pulling out the richest pay dirt any of them have ever touched, every hole glittering with coarse chunks, heavy pieces visible even before the water cleans them, slurry spilling in writhing ribbons of gold streaked with nuggets that clatter like coins in a jar as Mitch and Tyler work shoulder to shoulder, clearing, sorting, and feeding the machine as Parker keeps it moving. The ground trembles with each scoop, the roof groaning louder until a bucket lifts something so solid and dense the entire team swears aloud. A fused mass of gold, the size of a small watermelon, forged by pressure, shaped by time, a once-in-a-lifetime prize miners dream of but almost never see, and Parker barely glances before tossing it with the rest. There's no time to celebrate, only time to dig, as the glacier reaches its limit and a fissure tears across the dome like a zipper, the entrance groaning, folding inward, and collapsing in a thunderous crash, snow and ice cascading, the chamber closing fast. Parker shouts for the final bucket. Dylan signals the excavator, and the bucket dives one last time into the glowing hollow, pulling a heaving load, so dense it strains the hydraulics, gold pouring through gaps like sand. And as the machine backs out, the entrance collapses entirely, sealing the ancient vault once more, this time for good. Back at the plant, cleanup begins slow, methodical, almost silent, and every slurry tray, riffle, and mat overflows with coarse gold. Thick flakes, heavy pieces, nuggets so large they bounce instead of slide. Nothing fine, nothing typical for the Klondike. And when the concentrates are weighed, the numbers spike instantly, 50 million, then 70, still climbing as the trays keep filling. 90 million, unstoppable, finally locking in at 98 million, a single cleanup from a single pocket, the richest glacial gold trap Parker Schnabel has ever uncovered. Tyler repeats the geological analysis to confirm the conclusion. This wasn't a normal deposit, not even a rare one. It was a once-in-a-century kettle, preserved perfectly by a catastrophic flood, sudden freeze, glacial shift, and immense pressure, compressing it into a natural vault. The glacier not destroying the gold, but protecting it for centuries. And as Parker stands over the final tray, coarse gold piled like a dragon's hoard, he realizes he hasn't just found pay. He's opened a sealed chapter of geological history, a frozen vault untouched by time, a deposit that existed long before any miner picked up a pan. And for the first time in his career, he knows with absolute certainty this wasn't luck.